Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
First of May, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Friday, 1st of December 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news and sport and business, Sea-Watch, travel updates and the newsmakers in person. Tonight, after 2 years, the nurses' dispute could be over. Plans are in for 38 apartments on the Ocean Castle site. Horse and Mary High Street's getting worse. A big night in Bolton for Magic Rennie, and the Ravens host Squires Gate at the Bowl tomorrow.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. First to my Christian Jones.
First to my. Plans have been submitted to build 38 new apartments on the site of the former Ocean Castle Hotel in Port Erin. The company, which is part of the Tavere Group, wants to transform the Bramfield site, which is described as an eyesore on Spaldrick Promenade. A yellow weather warning's in effect for frost, ice and wintry showers. Forecasters believe the conditions will affect the entire island up until noon on Sunday. And tributes are being paid to former TT winner and two-time world champion Cecil Sanford, who's died at the age of 95. He took 2 victories in the TT in 1952 and 57 before retiring from motorcycle racing at the age of 29. In international news, bereaved relatives say Matt Hancock didn't deliver the honesty they were looking for. As he admitted to the COVID inquiry, his affair damaged public confidence. He appeared to snap when he was asked if he could see anything on screen, replying, "Of course I can read." Hamas is blaming what it calls a ceasefire failure on Israel and the US, as fighting resumed in Gaza soon after the truce expired this morning. It had allowed for a hostage prisoner swap. Israel claims to have hit 200 terror targets today. And Rishi Sunak says up to £11 billion is to be invested in the world's biggest offshore wind farm off the UK. He's been speaking at the COP28 climate conference in Dubai. Those are the Update News headlines. Next at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goramaya, thank you, Christian. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, no wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea smooth or slight. You heard Christian say there is a yellow weather warning up until midday on Sunday. Light northeasterly veering southerly is going to bring some showers tonight, falling as rain or sleet at lower levels and snow and sleet on the hills. Overnight minimum temperature around freezing point. And for Jasan, Saturday, intermittent rain or sleet showers at lower levels, sleet or snow on the hills in a light to moderate southwesterly. Daylight maximum 6 Celsius, down to 3 through the night. And for Jadooni, Sunday is cloudy with isolated wintry showers and a light easterly. Top temperature is 6 degrees Celsius. Tide on the way out. Low water is at 8:20 tonight. High tide 4 minutes after 2 a.m. Low water 8:05 tomorrow morning, and the sun rises at 8:15.
Manx Glass and Glazing are proud to be an approved contractor with Construction Isle of Man. Call the team on 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Well, it's been a while, and if you look very carefully on the horizon, it appears the end's in sight as nurses from the Isle of Man's largest nursing trade union have accepted the latest pay offer from Manx Care, a £1,500 consolidated pay award on top of a 6% uplift to salaries, ended a lengthy dispute which has spanned 2 years. Operations manager from the Royal College of Nursing Union is Paul Wood.
Up to this point, we'd taken 3 days of action, as you know, and we actually cancelled a further 4 days of action to allow these discussions to take place with the hope of reaching this resolution. So I think the pressures that they're experiencing, the pressure from their own staff and the pressure from residents and Isle of Man people are placed on the government and the health service has been part of all that overwhelming pressure that's brought them to that point.
And it's taken this long to get this pay deal, which has seen nurses on picket lines, emergency-style Christmas schedules implemented at medical facilities. We're already halfway through this financial year. Is it likely that this won't be the end of the industrial action?
Industrial action in all instances is a last resort. We have expressed to the employer, and I'm sure staff side, other trade unions feel the same, that we want to enter and conclude those discussions regarding this year's pay as swiftly as possible. I guess how swiftly we resolve that will be dependent on what the employer offers. We've seen what's been offered elsewhere in public services on the Isle of Man, and we'd hope to have something comparable to them.
The RCN says that there's no doubt the strike action prompted Manx Care to open talks, but the health body has always maintained that it was already open to talks. You obviously feel the strikes were necessary, but when the door to the negotiating room was seemingly already open, were they really necessary?
That wouldn't be my interpretation, and I dispute that. They didn't talk to us regarding pay until the point where we first balloted it on an offer. So I don't believe the door was open. We were told there was no more funding.
Plans have been submitted to build 38 new apartments on the site of the former Ocean Castle Hotel in Port Erin. Ocean Castle Limited, part of the Tavere Group, wants to transform the brownfield site, described as an eyesore, on Spaldrick Promenade. The story from Beth Espy.
The area has been dormant for many years, which the company says has had a negative impact on the visual landscape. Tavere Group is a privately held investment group which was established on the Isle of Man in 2017. These plans mark the first residential brownfield development for the operation. Taxpayer-backed funding for the project has been sought through the Island Infrastructure Scheme, which provides up to 25% of funding for the redevelopment of brownfield sites. If successful, the apartments would, it's said, cater to a broad mix of residents and be of varying prices. The apartment building would incorporate low and zero carbon technology such as heat pumps and solar. The Ocean Castle Hotel was one of 4 large hotels built on the Upper Promenade in Port Erin. The other 3 have since been redeveloped into apartments. The Tavere Group says the redevelopment of this site would have clear benefits for residents, businesses and government, many of which directly align with government's strategic aims. These include growing the population to 100,000 by 2037, providing additional tourism accommodation and reforming the built environment. It also claims the project would provide employment opportunities during construction and, consequently, increased employment taxes for local government. The planning statement adds that developing this site is important in ensuring that service towns such as Port Erin are not left behind. The plans are pending consideration and you can find them at manxradio.com.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
That's tonight. It's 22 minutes now before 6 after a last gasp defeat last week. FC Isle of Man are looking to bounce back at the Bowl tomorrow evening where they host Squires Gate in the NWCFL Premier Division. Ravens boss Paul Jones says his side must be prepared to adapt to get a result tomorrow. They've lost all 3 meetings against Squires Gate to date.
This is another side that, they've run very close twice this season. They've got some good results or good performances against some top teams. We just need to keep progressing and keep delivering. We can see we're making quite big steps forward in certain areas of the game and we need to tighten up on that. So we did a really good session Tuesday just on some of the things that we did really well on Saturday and identifying how we can do them a lot better. And we need to go and learn from those things and then go and deliver it. Luke's a good guy and he sets his teams up really, really well. And you're not quite sure what you're going to come up against. So we know they've played 5 at the back against Bury and then the next week they've played 4 at the back and they play with 2 up sometimes and they play with 3 up other times. So he sets them up well to give them the best chance possible to get a result. So I think that is a real strength of theirs. And then they've obviously got players that can go and play in slightly different positions and different shapes and they're tactically astute enough to be able to do that. So we need to be aware that they might not only start the game in a slightly different way but also maybe change through the game. It's that kind of readiness to be able to play in a variety of different ways and flexibility to be able to do that and adaptability to be able to do that on Saturday that's going to be really, really important. It's our halfway game, halfway point of the season, and it's really important, I think, that good football teams don't often lose back-to-back games, and that's something we have to instill in each other going forward as something that this club is known for, is that we don't lose games consecutively. That just doesn't happen in this football club. Now, that's not something I can say hasn't happened previously, because it has. We've gone on little runs and we've got ourselves out of losing too often, but certainly that's our focus, is we've got to go on the next winning run, and that our aim is for that to start on Saturday.
A Peel man who sexually assaulted a sleeping woman has been told his actions were abhorrent and he should feel disgusted with himself. You may find some details distressing in this report from Tessa Hawley.
Paul McCormack of Castle Street was jailed at Douglas Courthouse today after admitting 2 offences of indecent assault. He struck in the early hours of the 6th of December 2020 when the woman had passed out face down after a night out with friends. The court heard she'd woken to find the 47-year-old violating her. McCormack also appeared to be taking photos or videos at the time. Describing it as a serious case of indecent assault, the prosecutor told the court the woman had felt unable to fight him off and had froze. 2 videos were recovered from McCormack's phone, one which the prosecutor said was filmed perhaps moments before the offence took place. In a victim impact statement provided to the court, the woman described how she'd suffered panic attacks, nightmares and flashbacks and struggled with anxiety and depression. McCormack's advocate told the court he accepted the victim was vulnerable due to her level of intoxication and the fact she was asleep, but added the incident was relatively brief. It's unfortunate that this man has behaved the way that he has, he added. He's not a man you'll be seeing before this court ever again. Sending McCormack to prison for 30 months, Deemster Graham Cook said he'd known the woman was in a seriously intoxicated state, adding, "You should be disgusted with yourself. She is to be commended for having the courage to come forward and make this complaint," he added. McCormack was also placed on the sex offenders register indefinitely and handed a restraining order which prohibits him from contacting the woman. A charge of rape was withdrawn by the prosecution.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor vessel Manxman departed Heysham at 3:20. She'll be into Douglas gone 6:30 tonight, arriving onto the Links Bend just before 7 o'clock. Tonight's departure is 7:45 for Manxman heading to Heysham. If that's on time, the Heysham arrival should be around 11:30, and the overnight departure 2:15 from Heysham back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning's departure for Manxman 8 a.m. heading to Heysham.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
A huge night awaits Manx pro boxer Matthew Rennie, who faces James Moorcroft in Bolton on the undercard of an event being broadcast on Channel 5 tonight. Magic Rennie's currently undefeated ahead of the showdown, and he told Manx Radio how big a moment this could be in his career thus far.
This is the biggest fight of my life, and even as an amateur, I boxed at a very high level as an amateur, and this tops everything because I know how much this could change my life. If I win this fight, or when I win this fight, I should say, this could, open so many different doors and so many different avenues to potentially go down in 2024. It's been really good because obviously I had my fight in October, didn't I? And I got told the day after that fight about this potentially coming up, so it's just been like from that camp straight into another camp, so I've not had time to blow out and have a bit and have food and stuff and blow up on the weight. So my weight's been really well through the whole during of the camp, and training's good. Obviously the rounds have gone up to 10 rounds, but it actually got dropped to an 8-rounder, so I'm actually only doing 8 rounds now, but we were ready for a 10. We've been doing 10 round sparring, everything's been upped, the intensity's been upped in training, and even like my strength work, my running work, just I've took everything to the next level, if you know what I mean. No matter who I'm in there against, I always believe I can beat them, and with the tactics we have planned, it's just I just need to go out and do what I know I can do, and I believe I'll win on the night, whether it'll be from stoppage or points victory, whatever it takes to win. That's what I'll do. Of course, I want to do well for the island as well for myself and my family, but it definitely spurs you on knowing that everyone's going to be cheering you back at home. I know there's a few different clubs and pubs showing it. I'm just looking forward to it, and I hope I can make everyone proud back home. For the kids that are watching on back in the Isle of Man, even if it's not boxing, even if it's football or any sort of sport that they're doing, it might give them a better belief that they can go on and do it as well.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, shares in Pfizer encountered a decline today yesterday after the company announced the discontinuation of the twice-daily medicine version of its experimental weight loss pill. The decision followed a mid-stage clinical study where obese patients experienced significant weight loss but struggle with tolerating the drug due to the high rates of mild gastrointestinal side effects. The pill aimed to offer a more convenient alternative to the widely used weight loss injections. For a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Meta is looking to roll out Threads in Europe next month in January. The Wall Street Journal reported, citing anonymous sources, it would be the microblogging service's largest expansion since it launched in July. Threads was created as a competitor to X, of course formerly known as Twitter, and hasn't been available in Europe due to the continent's strict digital regulations. The expansion could give it another 40 million monthly users, a huge boost. X, formerly Twitter, has 365 million users. To comply with EU rules, Meta will allow customers to use Threads purely for consumption without creating a profile that allows them to post.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
London stocks surged into positive territory, buoyed by robust performances in the mining sector. Wall Street indices were mixed as investors exercised caution. Oil experienced a downturn, and gold positioned for a third consecutive weekly gain. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 up just over 1%, 7,531. The DAX in Frankfurt, again just up over a percentage point at 16,387. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrials up 0.25%, 36,045. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up 0.06%, barely 0.1% at 14,234. The S&P 500 up almost 0.2% at 4,576. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is trading $1 26.7 cents, €1 16.6 cents, and 23 South African rand 59.4 cents. In commodities, gold up almost a percentage point, $2,056 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude up almost 1 2/10% at $81.27.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Isle of Man Water Sports. Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Here's the latest. If you're sailing, kayaking, windsurfing, paddleboarding, sea swimming, diving or surfing this weekend, sea temperature is 12 degrees Celsius. The wind for tomorrow, Saturday, south or southwesterly, force 3 or 4, veering westerly, wave height 0.5 to 1 metre in places, wave period 5 or 6 seconds, high tide 2:21 p.m. And for Sunday, the wind is variable, force 2 or 3, becoming easterly, force 3 or 4 later, wave height 0.5 metres, wave period 5 or 6 seconds, high tide 4 minutes past 3 p.m.
Manx Glass and Glazing are able to offer an emergency out-of-hours boarding up service. Call 491918. Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
2 MHKs want to see progress on proposals to reconstruct Port St Mary High Street. Russian members Juan Watterson and Michelle Haywood were expecting work to get underway in this financial year, but learnt at a recent meeting with the DOI that's not on the cards.
It's a substantial reconstruction, so it was the first part of the Irish scheme was laid through there, and the backfill that happened over that wasn't up to standard. That's what's caused the road to collapse. To actually work on that road, the whole road has to be closed off, and we know that several of the houses along there have cellars and everything like that. It is a complicated piece of work to do. There was an offer from the DOI, wasn't there, that they just come along and resurface it, but everyone knows that that's not going to last at all. No. And of course, Port St Mary has the wagons coming through from the harbour, so we have some heavy, and as well as buses, we have some heavy wagons coming through there. It is just going to keep getting worse. The estimate the last time that we thought was about £500,000 to do that stretch of road, and it would need to be closed for a period of probably 3 to 4 months.
Well, that figure's a few years old, isn't it?
That figure's old now.
Probably near £1 million, and that depends on whether they find coal tar under the road, as they have done elsewhere in Port St Mary. So they then have to find a disposal route for that as well.
So what's going to have to happen for it to be done?
Well, hopefully
it can't collapse, surely.
I think we're tempted to go down and dig it up ourselves if it gets any worse, just to make sure that they do actually have to move it up the list.
I wanted to plant little Christmas trees in each of the potholes. I'm still thinking that's a good idea. The tinsel on.
The DOI have said it's their top priority for a road capital project. So we want to get back and the last meeting we had, they didn't really have the answers as to where the money had gone. So we've organised another one for the near future. We don't have a date yet, but in order to find out, well, what has actually happened to the capital money, where is the scheme up to, and really keep the pressure on the department.
Manx Radio Sport.
Faster My sports editor Rob Pritchard.
Faster My, good evening. Starting with football, and the semi-finals of this year's Plum Properties Railway Cup are currently scheduled to take centre stage in the latest instalment of Manx football fixtures this weekend. Current Premier League leaders Ayr United are due to host St Mary's, whilst Ramsey take on defending Premier League champions Peel at the Balaclone Stadium. Both matches are penned in to get underway at 1:15pm. Meanwhile, there's also the regular programme of league fixtures across the 4 divisions from 2pm tomorrow. Meanwhile, another jam-packed weekend awaits in Manx rugby, both on and off island. A big Saturday awaits for Western Vikings, who'll be aiming to reach the Cheshire Plate final when they face Port Sunlight at 11am tomorrow morning. Here's Manx Radio's rugby correspondent Dave Christian.
They know they need 2 points from this match, so a draw will be enough for the Vikings, or a defeat and 2 losing bonus points, score 7 tries, finish within 4. Sunlight have to win, and they have to win big. They need 5 points. They also need to score 4 tries or more, and they have to prevent Western Vikings from finishing within 7 as well. So big ask for Port Sunlight. You've got to fancy Vikings.
Elsewhere on Saturday, Douglas are back in Regional 2 North West action at home to Winnington Park, and Vagabonds Ladies host women's NC1 North West leaders Broughton Park. There's also one match in the Ravenscroft Bank Shield tomorrow between Castletown and Isle of Man Barbarians. And finally tonight in motorsport, tributes are being paid to former TT winner and 2-time world champion Cecil Sanford, who has died at the age of 95. Both the Isle of Man TT races and Manx Grand Prix confirmed the news this week, with both saying their thoughts and sincere condolences are with Mr Sanford's family at this time. Having appeared in both events on the Snaefell Mountain course during his career, Mr Sanford took 2 victories in the TT, in the 1952 ultra lightweight race and the 1957 lightweight contest. He made 1 appearance at the Manx Grand Prix, with his best result a 5th place finish in 1949 in the junior race.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound up Ronald's Way, the 7:30 EasyJet from London Gatwick is currently showing on time. Then you got the 10 to 8 Loganair from London City on time. The 5 to 8 returning patient transfer Loganair from Liverpool is showing on time. Outbound at 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool is on time. Then it's the 8 o'clock EasyJet back to Gatwick showing on time. Temporary lights on the main road at Colby at the junction with Ballakilferrick for that water main work. Crosby still got those temporary lights on the main road, the A1 near Ballavitchel Road, for excavation work on for another week or so. The Aracy Road from Glen May is closed to the Shoulder Road for resurfacing. Clanner Road in Sulby is closed again for resurfacing. You got Hillside Avenue closed through to Circular Road. They're still on that adjacent office window replacement till June of next year. Until November next year, section of Switzerland Road's closed for construction work. Temporary lights on Braddon Road between the hospital and Strang Road for work on the pavements. Temporary lights on Cool Road in Braddon at the Isle of Man Business Park roundabout for drainage work. In Port Erin, temporary lights on Station Road at the Ballafesson Road junction for gas main work. And in Andros, Cian Droghard Road's closed in phases for water main work.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre. Spread your payments interest-free. Get more with
Quayside. Manx Care's Executive Medical Director is currently undertaking clinical activity in Liverpool after completing a secondment at another UK hospital. The story from Sian Cowper.
Dr Shreeman Andole, who joined Manx Care in 2021, took up a post at the University Hospitals of Derby and Burton NHS Foundation Trust on a temporary basis earlier this year. In a letter to staff shared at the time with Manx Radio, Manx Care's Chief Executive Teresa Cope described his secondment as a great weight loss, adding that the Trust had made a proactive approach for the stroke consultant. In April, the island's healthcare provider confirmed Dr. Marina Hudson, a clinical director for Manx Care, had taken over as medical director on an interim basis, an appointment that was expected to last 6 months. In September, a new interim executive medical director took over at Derby and Burton. Manx Care has now confirmed to Manx Radio that Dr. Andol has completed his secondment and is currently undertaking clinical activity in Liverpool, which is part of his contract with Manx Care. It adds that Dr. Hudson will remain as interim executive medical director during this time.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
Take a deep breath. Entries for the 2024 Manx Telecom Parish Walk are now open, taking place 22nd and 23rd of June next year. Race Director Ray Cox.
I think once you sort out the basics, in other words, I've got a good pair of shoes, I've got comfortable clothing that you're able to walk in. After that then, one single trait that runs through every parish walk finisher. They're all very single-minded. They're all very determined people. So there's no question it's a mental challenge as much as a physical one. And those people who can crack it mentally, they're the ones that finish.
For anyone who hasn't done the parish walk before and is thinking about making 2024 their debut year in this event, what would you say to them? How would you convince them?
Well, it is the most fantastic day. It's a day when the Isle of Man shows itself off in its best light. It's a fantastic community day, and the sheer volume of supporters and spectators out there drives you along. So if you want to be part of this, go on to parishwalk.com and get your entry in.
That's parishwalk.com. And the very best of luck. That's it for Update tonight. And this week, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Christian Jones, producer Beth Espy. I'm Andy Wint. Back Monday at 5:30.
WIN